Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Rutherglen and Hamilton West for a barnstorming speech in protection of job centres. To perhaps continue the theme from my honourable friend for Glasgow South, I have also too researched not only my written questions and answers, but those of my honourable friends, and they put me in mind of the infamous press conference by Donald Rumsfeld, the former US Defence Secretary, when he said in that memorable term, "There are things we don't know." And that reminds me of the answers from the government. The actual travel times for an individual to get to a job centre, they don't know. The number of benefit claimants using each job centre, they don't know. The catchment areas for each job centre, they do not know. The actual bus routes, they do not know. That a planning application had been made in relation to Annisland Job Centre, they did not know. That the landlord for Castlemilk Job Centre had offered to lower the rent on the site, they did not know. The impact on disabled and women, they do not know. Now, these points are important because if they don't know all of these things, then why are they so certain that job centres should close in Glasgow? And why is it, Madam Chair, that no other announcements have been made by the Department of Work and Pensions in relation to the closures of job centres? Is it because of the public backlash they've already seen in Glasgow? Or is it because they now know through the Glasgow experiment that there is a lack of evidence to close other job centres across the UK? Is it because the information they don't have in Glasgow is required elsewhere? Yesterday, Madam Chair, we were told in the Chamber that work is the way out of poverty. But what consolation is that to the people in Glasgow who will find that the very places to find work are no longer there to support them? And if they don't have the information, the government don't have the information I've referred to at the beginning of my remarks, why are they only consulting publicly on 3 of the 8 job centres earmarked for closure? If there is a package of 8 job centres announced to close, then the whole package should be consulted upon. And what consolation is it to those who work in other government departments who are being made redundant? Is it the vision of the government to reduce the workforce in other departments who will then find themselves that they can't find a job centre because they've closed that too? That seems to be a rather perverse vision of making sure that work is the way out of poverty. Madam Chair, the plans to close 50% of job centres in Glasgow is a moral outrage. 68,000 people in Glasgow in receipt of job seekers allowance, employment support allowance and universal credit will be impacted by these closures. It will result in more people having to pay the telephone tax, the premium rate charges to call government departments, and there is support in government benches as well as SNP benches to ensure that that telephone tax is ended. The cost of the job centre closures will be placed onto the people it should be assisting. And I would recommend, Madam Chair, the submission from the Parkhead Housing Association, who make that very point, that extra cost of travel will incur on people living off the bare minimum the government states is required for day-to-day survival. And it is those people on low incomes, and it's unacceptable that tens of thousands of people will now travel further and incur additional costs to access social security. These are individuals, Madam Chair, that are seeking work on employment support. And as PCS have said, the Civil Service Trade Union, the impact will be on women, vulnerable children and people with disabilities already hit hardest by government cuts. Madam Chair, there must be an equality impact assessment. We must have a guarantee from the government that the results of any equality analysis will be considered in the eventual decision. The government have behaved in a disgraceful manner. They have not consulted the Scottish Government before the announcement. They did not consult the local authority. Inadequate responses to written answers to those who have submitted questions, except that familiar one that often is received by honourable members across the House, that information can only be provided at disproportionate cost. Well, what is disproportionate, Madam Chair? It's to close 50% of job centres in Glasgow when there's an expectation that it should be 20% elsewhere. Thank you.
Yeah.